in this video I am going to share some common mistakes, that is grammatical mistakes, which the candidates often make during their IELTS exam, especially in speaking and writing time. So I'm going to share those mistakes with you because 25% of marks in IELTS writing and speaking consist of grammar also. So I'm going to explain these mistakes so that you could avoid making these grammatical mistakes. See, most of the time if you make your IELTS speaking and even writing also error free, then only the examiner will find less mistakes in your IELTS writing and speaking. So let's start. And the first mistake which the candidate often make is related to contractions. Stop using contractions such as don't and even doesn't, and sometimes you also use can't. So instead of using these contractions, you have to use cannot instead of can't. You have to use does not instead of doesn't. You have to use do not instead of don't, because if you use these contractions in your, especially in your IELTS writing, then definitely it will put your band score down. So try not to use these contractions in your IELTS writing, both for academic and general students. And the next mistake which the candidate often make is related to the. Most of the time candidate do not know how to use the in IELTS writing and even in IELTS speaking also. So I'm going to explain how to use the in IELTS writing and speaking and in different sentences. For instance, you have to use the with something that is prior to you. You have to use the prior to something which is not common in the whole world, which is the thing which is only one in the whole world. For instance, you have to use the prior to environment. For instance, the environment, the atmosphere, the ozone layer. So like this way you have to use the prior to these things. And you also have to use the prior to the thing or something which is not common in particular area also. For instance, you have to use the prior to government, because the government is only one in particular area. And for instance, you also have to use the prior to the bridge, the river. So like this way you have to use the. And now I'm going to explain the other grammatical mistake which candidate often make is related to prepositions. In, on, at, these are the prepositions, and candidate do not know how to use these prepositions in IELTS writing and even in IELTS speaking also. For instance, many candidates use on for room. If you are going inside the room, then many candidates use on room. For instance, on the room. On the room is correctly wrong, because you are not standing on the room. You have to use in room. You are inside the room. So instead of using on the room, you have to use in the room. For instance, you use on the car. If you are using on the car preposition, then it is correctly wrong, because if you have to use in the car. If you are using on the car, you are not standing on the car. On means something on that place. So if you are using on the car, that is completely wrong. You have to use in the car. You are inside the car. You are not standing on the car. So like this way, for times of the day, you have to use preposition at. For instance, at 7 o'clock, at 8 o'clock. And for seasons and for months also, you have to use preposition in. For instance, in December month, in 2019, this is for century also, you have to use in. And you have to use on for dates and even for days of the week or days of the month also. So you have to use days. For days and dates, you have to use on. For instance, you have to use on Wednesday, on 5th of March, on 5th of December. So like this way you could use this. And the next mistake is related to countable and uncountable nouns. Most of the candidates do not know which are the uncountable nouns. So for uncountable nouns, you have to use one thing only. You have to use that word in, not in s also. You could not use uncountable nouns in plural form, that is most some nouns are in uncountable form. So you have to use these nouns in singular form only instead of using them in plural form. For instance, you have to say shopping, you could not say shoppings. And for instance, you have to say money, you could not say monies. So these are the uncountable nouns. You could not use these nouns in plural form. For instance, advice, for advertising also, for work also, you have to use these uncountable nouns in singular form. And numbers instead of using words. That is the next mistake that most candidates do, that they use numbers instead of using words in their IELTS writing. For instance, if you're saying that a candidate is required to answer 6 out of 10 questions, so you have to use word in these sentences. You cannot use these words, numbers in the form of numbers only. You could not write 6 or 10. You have to write in words, that is six 6 and ten 10. So these are the common grammatical mistakes which the candidate often make during their IELTS speaking and writing exam. So let's move towards the last grammatical mistake, and the last grammatical mistake is related to articles. Wrong usage of article. Candidates do not know how to use a and an, especially with vowels. A, E, I, O, U are the vowels. So if the vowel is singular and you are using the word with any kind of vowel, then you have to use an at that time. For instance, orange. Orange is starting with O, where that is a vowel. So you have to use an at that time. An orange, an idea, an interesting story. I'm repeating again. If you are using vowel, that is any kind of word starting with vowel, that is A, E, I, O, U, and the vowel is also singular at that time, then you have to use an. You have to use that vowel word starting with an only, that is article. So these are the grammatical mistakes that candidates often make during the IELTS speaking and writing exam. And I hope that after watching this video, you will not make these mistakes in